Hello students. In the last video I have discussed what is a force and the effects of force. So today also I am going to continue the same chapter with another topic, types of forces. Based on the interaction between the two objects, forces are classified into two types, contact forces and non-contact forces. So what are contact forces or what are non-contact forces? From the name itself we can understand that contact forces are a type of force which can be applied only when an object is in contact with the another object. That means there should be a physical contact between the two objects. Such types of forces are called contact forces. Muscular force, frictional force are the some examples of contact forces. So what is this contact force? Will you able to lift a book or a bundle of books without touching that book? It's not possible. To lift or to pick a book or to push or pull a book, we need to touch on the book. So this is an example of contact force. Clear? That means contact is needed. Similarly, what are non-contact forces? It is a type of force which act on an object without coming physically in contact with it. There is not necessary there should be a physical contact between the objects. Without being a physical contact, the force can be applied. Such types of forces are called non-contact forces. For example, magnetic force, electrostatic force, and gravitational force. These are some examples of non-contact forces. Let's discuss some one by one. First, I am going to take the examples of contact forces. There are two examples I have told, that is muscular force and frictional force. Okay, so what is a muscular force? The force resulting due to the action of muscles present in our body, that is called muscular force. Okay, there are different types of muscles are present throughout our body. So many of the muscles are helping to do some actions to move our body. Actually, this force is caused by the action of muscles present in our body or muscles of our body. Okay, many activities which we are doing with the help of this muscular force. When we are trying to kick a ball with our leg, to move our leg, there should be a force, that is a muscular force. Clear? Similarly, when we are lifting, picking, whatever we are doing, the activities, daily life activities, which involves the motion of our body, that is due to the actions of muscles. So to apply muscular force, there should be a physical contact with between our body and the object on which we are going to apply the force. One more thing we need to remember is that there are some muscular actions which we cannot control, and some certain muscular actions which we can control by ourselves. So those muscular actions we can control. Such types of muscles or the actions are called voluntary muscular actions, or those muscles involved in the voluntary muscular actions are called voluntary muscles. And the all activities which we are doing in our daily life, like walking, moving, running, these all activities are due to the result action of voluntary muscles. That means we can control the movements of those muscles. Such types of muscles are called voluntary muscles, and such types of actions are called voluntary muscular actions. But there are some muscles which are not under our control or which are not under our free will. Those actions are not controlled by our free will, which is directly controlled by the brain. Okay, such types of muscles are called involuntary muscles. There are many activities which are performed inside our body by these types of muscles. Many processes like digestion, breathing, these all processes are carried by these involuntary muscles. Let's take some examples which are given in your textbook. First, let's start with the digestion. In the process of digestion, the food gets pushed through the alimentary canal, that means from mouth to anus. Okay, there are certain muscles which are present inside the alimentary canal, which the movement of those muscles helps to the movement of food from up to down. So that means which are not under our control and which are directly controlled by the brain, which is continuously performing in our body. The second process which is given in your textbook, that is breathing. During the breathing process, we are taking the air into the body, as well as we are pushing out the air from our body. That means the entire breathing process has two phases. One is inhalation as well as exhalation. How this process occurs? The main organ in this system is the lungs. So lungs is placed in a particular cavity, and under the lungs there is a one structural membrane, and which is a muscle cell, which is called diaphragm. Diaphragm is the major muscles which helps for the breathing. That means when the diaphragm relaxes, the space inside the cavity will be increased, so that the lungs also will be bulge out and the air will enter into the body. And when the diaphragm contracts, the space inside that cavity will all decrease. Similarly, the lungs also will get contracted. Obviously, the air will push out of the body. Never think that the diaphragm is the only one muscle which helps for the process of breathing. No, there are some more muscles which are present near to the wall of cavity also contribute their part to this process. But diaphragm is the major muscle which helps in the breathing process. Okay, so this also continuously, the diaphragm is continuously contracting and relaxing without our will. Okay, it is controlled by the brain. That is also an example of involuntary muscle. The action of diaphragm muscle is very important in our body. This is also an example of muscular force. Okay, how this muscular force actually happens is the muscle cells have one capacity that to contract and relax. Okay, that you will learn. You will learn more about muscles in later classes. Actually, animals also make use of this muscular force to carry the goods and to perform other activities. Okay. The second type of conductive force is friction. Did you notice that a car or goods, okay, a car or scooter will come to rest if the engine is switched off? Why this happen? Similarly, a ball rolling on the ground gradually slow down and come to rest. Why this happen, or why this situation happen? Because whenever we switch off the engine of a vehicle, slowly it comes to rest. An object come to rest means there is a change in state of motion. To change the state of motion, there should be some force applied. From where this force came? In case of a football or ball rolling on the ground, gradually slow down and come to rest. In that case also there is no external force applied. According to our point of view, it does not appear there is an external force, but still it comes to rest. That means there should be an external force. Otherwise, it does not come to rest. So there should be a force acting on the object in the opposite, in the direction opposite to the direction of the motion of object. Because those all, whether in case of car or the ball, both come to rest. That means the external force should be in the opposite direction. So that force is called frictional force. So what is actually friction? Friction is a resistance to the motion of one object moving relative to other. Or friction is a force between two surfaces that are sliding or trying to slide across each other. When an object is sliding over another object, there is a force acting between the surface of two objects in the direction opposite to the direction of motion. That force is called frictional force. Okay, and that is also a contact force, because friction force will result only when two objects come in contact. We will discuss more details of frictional force in the next chapter. Now let's move to discuss the types of non-contact forces. First, we can start with the magnetic force. Magnetic force, you might be already know what is a magnetic force. What is a magnetic force? A magnet can exert a force on another magnet without being contact with it. That means if you keep two magnets closer, there is not necessary that there is a contact between the two magnets. There will be a force. Okay, a magnet not only exert a force on another magnet, it is exert some other materials like iron, etc. We already learned that a magnet has two poles, north pole and south pole. Okay, if we bring two north pole or two south pole together, okay, then what will happen? When we try to pull into the, we will feel some force with one magnet trying to repel another. That means like poles always repel each other. Similarly, when we try to bring one north pole of one magnet and south pole of another magnet, then what will happen? We can see that when we bring the one magnet to another, the near magnet, we can see that after reaching a particular distance, the second magnet will get attracted to the first magnet and get stick on that. That means when two unlike poles comes each other, there will be an attractive force. So there are two different forces. What are attractive force as well as repulsive forces based on the pole. Okay. So to exert a magnetic force, there is not necessarily there should be a contact between the magnets. So this is also an example of non-contact force. In the beginning, we have discussed that to exert a force, there should be an interaction between two objects. In case of contact force, okay, there is an interaction because there is physical contact. While in case of non-contact force, there is no physical contact. Then how the interaction takes place? For example, in case of magnetic force, which is also a non-contact force, so there is an interaction arising between the field exists around the magnet, which is called a magnetic field. In case of non-contact force, never think that there is no interaction. Yes, there is no physical contact, but still there is an interaction between the field of objects. Okay, in case of magnetic force, there is magnetic field exists around the magnets, and when these magnetic fields interact with one another, there will be magnetic force arises. According to the pole, it will be attractive or repulsive. Next one is that electrostatic force. It is related to the electric charges. The force exerted by one charged body on another charged or uncharged body is called electrostatic force. For simple example, you can do one experiment is that take one refill of pen, okay, plastic one, and just rub it on your dry hair. Okay, then just take a small pinch of paper and bring the pen, rub the pen closer to the piece of paper. You can observe that the piece of paper gets attracted towards the pen and it gets stick on that. So why this happened? Because during the rubbing, both pen and hair will get charged. So when this charged pen bring closer to the piece of paper, it is get attracted. Clear? This is because of the presence of electrostatic force. Electrostatic force is a property of electric charges. Okay, at least one object should be electrically charged. By rubbing or by different methods are there, but the easiest way of charging is that rubbing. Clear? There are two types of electrostatic force exist. Like charges always repel and unlike charges always attract, like in case of magnet. Clear? So we will discuss more about the electrostatic force in the chapter 15. Okay? Next type of non-contact force is the gravitational force. Did you notice that leaves and fruits are falling towards the ground when they detach from the plants or trees? Or while we open the tap, the water will flow towards the ground. So how these all things happen? In case of falling a fruit or leaf towards the ground, there should be a force exerted by the ground. Otherwise, the fruit or leaf will not come to the ground. It will stay in the atmosphere. So, why this happen? The reason is that there is a force exerted by the earth on all this object, which is called gravitational force. Never think that gravitation is the property of only earth. No, in the universe, every objects are attracted by the gravitational force. And unlike electrostatic force and magnetic force, gravitation is an attractive force. There is no repulsive gravitational force. Gravitation is an attractive force. Okay, every object in the universe are attracted by the another object with the force is called a gravitational force. Necessary condition is that the object should possess some mass. Similarly, all the planets are revolving around the sun. Am I right? Moon is revolving around the Earth, and other planets, all the planets like Earth, Saturn, all the planets in our solar system are revolving around the sun in a particular path. So to revolve around the sun, there should be a force between the sun and this planet. That is also a gravitational force. So this revolution of the planet around the sun is due to gravitation force. Okay, so this is all about the types of forces. And just read the textbook thoroughly up to this section. In the next video, I will continue the same chapter with the topic pressure. Thank you all.